All right, Las Vegas, it's time. Your number one political talk show host, the guru of late night, it's the John Brislin Show. Call in live right now, 702-257-KDWN. And here he is, folks, John Brislin.
Yeah, thanks for joining me tonight, Las Vegas and everywhere west of the Rockies to the Pacific, north to Canada, and down south to Mexico. This is the John Brislin Show, the best in late night political talk in the western United States. Tonight we are going to be talking about some of the socialism subjects that have been coming up with all the conversations, the long drawn out filibustering that's going on in Washington right now, trying to get the simplest thing all sorted out. I would love for you to call in. My phone number is area code 702-257-KDWN. If you're on the road, I would love to hear from you. And tonight, a little fun game challenge, I suppose, would be to, let's see what caller can call in from the furthest point away. I guess that would be maybe Washington or Montana. Give me a call. Let me know where you're from, and we'll try to get the furthest state away. Frank? Yep. Right, and that caller, if I just missed you, give me a call back at, again, 702-257-5396, 257-5396. I'm also on Facebook at The John Brislin Show, B as in boy, R-I-S-L-I-N. You can send me any messages, emails, or other messages right through there, and would love to hear from you either way, on the phone or via Facebook. We got a couple emails already. One is from Debbie, and she says that her boss is a Democrat and has always taken politics too seriously. It's not illegal, she says, but I am uncomfortable every time it comes up. He says he doesn't care if I have a different opinion, and he wants me to debate. I know I could out argue him, but do I just shut him down or listen? Debbie, there's funny similarity to an email that I got last week. And the thing that I said last week when it comes to relationships, which you could say that something with your boss is pretty much the same as you can either be happy or you can be right. And maybe in this point, in this place, in this certain situation, you can either be happy and employed or right. Because what you're going to find out is if it's your boss, you can argue with them all you want to, but you don't have the card to play of pulling rank. So if you're working somewhere and all of a sudden you start to make an enemy over something silly like that, well, don't lose your job over arguing over a debt ceiling. Plenty of unemployment out there already. One thing I would mention, though, find him some sort of fresh meat. Find him somebody else. Is there anybody else in the office that you can throw in front of him and will get them to argue? I don't know, somebody from the mailroom, or who knows. If there's anybody that you can throw out there that does want to take that risk and maybe doesn't disagree with him so much, it's like playing golf. You want to let the boss win. One of my favorite books is The 48 Laws of Power. If you're ever in a bookstore, take a quick look at it. If you don't love it in the first 5 minutes, put it back down. But I bet you'll love it and keep reading it all night long. The 48 Laws of Power, it's been a while. I forget now. I think it's law number 6, but it says never outshine the master. Never, ever outshine the master. There's a lot of truth to that. You want to show how good you are, but not necessarily better than the boss. So, one other email that I want to take a look at is from Sandy Daniel. It says, John, I hear you, but I don't agree. This was talking about last week's show as far as the debt ceiling and what the solutions are from the Republican side and from the Democrat side. It says, we've had a money problem for long before Obama. Y'all, and it says y'all, just want to blame him. Whatever do you think George W. did with tax cuts, 2 unfunded wars, and a senior drug plan that wasn't paid for? None of those spendthrift Republicans had a problem with that stuff. I personally can't see I can't see how anyone could spout that nonsense with a straight face. Well, I'll tell you what, Sandy, just to revisit last week's show for just a minute, where's the line? Where is it? When do we have to say, stop, enough's enough? There's always going to be somebody that's complaining. If it would have been last decade, then it would have been somebody complaining about the wars and how they need to be funded. And now it's anybody in support of Obama. It's going to say that if we say that there needs to be a balanced budget amendment, then guess what? We're not supporting the president. Or every once in a while, we get called a racist for actually opposing Barack Obama. Well, there has to be a point somewhere down the road where we say we have got to spend the money that we have, pay the interest on the debts that we've already run up, and try to get it back under control. It's said so much, this out of control spending. These people say it so much that we don't listen to it anymore. And when you stop listening to the fact that you're diving into a hole of debt, it just gets deeper and deeper. And, you don't need to be a financial expert to understand that debt isn't what you want to get deeper and deeper into. When you get that deep in, there's something that we seem to forget. When we have a country like this, or a house like a lot of us still have, or a car or possessions in general, people are out there watching. People are watching for the opportunity to take them from us. It's the breeding grounds for a healthy paranoia. So you don't want to get to the point where you're paranoid, but you also want to understand that there is a threat out there. There is a reason that you lock your door. How many of you lock your door at night? If you're not just a wee bit paranoid, you would leave it open. How many people can leave their cars unlocked? How many people would leave their wallet in a restaurant and leave the table and, go to the bathroom? These are things that you don't do because you just unconsciously know to protect yourself. We have got to remember that this country is being watched. And if we go the road of the easiest example to look at is Russia, and we accumulate so much debt that the payment on the debt means that we can't pay as they did. They couldn't pay their military. We can't pay our military, and we can't pay the most fundamental things, the necessities. We are at a national security risk. We are actually vulnerable to other countries who want to come in and take us over. And it doesn't have to be with tanks. I think we've seen enough lately that we can tell that a computer cyber attack or one terrorist attack, small hits can hurt us. And the weaker and weaker we get because we don't have the money to respond. I'm sorry, but wars cost money. Everything that you want to think of comes back down to money. So what I'm getting to is we can face a strategic risk. There can be countries that wouldn't normally do anything against us, but they don't want to have their enemy country beat them to the punch, so they would be compelled to do something to come in and try to hurt us. And not for nothing, but it's already been done. Not to the scale of actually condemning this country, as in, I'm not doing it. I'm not walking down the path of talking about what it would take to destroy our country. I won't do it. But let me just say that we're not so strong that we can't take some big punches to the head and have it knock us down to the mat. And we need to pay attention to it. So my point to Sandy is, where is the line? Where is it that we say enough's enough? Yes, people are going to complain now. They would have complained yesterday and they'll complain tomorrow. But we need to face it. We need to get the budget in order, a balanced budget amendment to make it law, because we cannot trust politicians to be anything but politicians and do their job. So, switching gears for a minute, there are, there were some, let's put it this way. There was some sort of, maybe a manifesto, sort of I'll say a socialist manifesto that was put out by Keith Olbermann a few days ago. And I've taken it apart to let you hear it. And if you agree with it, this is where the divide is. If you agree with it, you're probably going to think that it's the smartest bit of wisdom that you've ever heard. If you are a conservative, then you're probably going to listen to it and say, I cannot believe that this is what so many people think. When I say so many people, I'm talking about the majority of Americans. Let's remember the majority of Americans that, elected Barack Obama maybe a majority brought in a Republican Congress, but now they may be swinging back to the Democrat side because of normal political swings. Anyway, take a listen to this first one. Ready? All right.
Face it, we do not take care of one another. Not we as in progressives, not we as in Americans, not we as in the West, we as a species. Individual people we know, we take care of them. It is human nature dating back to the caves to form small protective units, families, clans, groups, guilds. But take care of everybody? Everybody in your neighborhood, the people you love and the people you don't know, everybody in your country, the people who are like you and the people who have in common with you only humanity? Do you take care of them? Do we take care of them?
We are getting into about the ultimate socialist argument, the ultimate liberal argument, that we need to take care of each other. Oberman is kind-hearted, and he's got the best intentions. I'll give him that. I have given that assumption. But the thing is, it's misguided. It is not the government's job to take care of our every need. Government's job is to be a referee on the field, not to become one of the players. I'm going to play a lot more of the Oberman, and what you're going to see is this is the exact mindset of typical liberals that are out there right now that think that the government is the only source of good, of generosity. The government is the only way anything good will ever happen. They forget that America does not equal the government. We're more than the government. The government is just simply one body within a greater American society, an American culture. And the generosity of Americans is not limited to what we're forced to out of contractual obligation. It is not the generosity that we're forced to pony up because the law says so.
It seems as if we are taught as young children to share, and then as soon as we let go of our parents' hands, we are taught to stop sharing, or to at least stop prioritizing sharing, to stop sharing unconditionally.
Now, see, the implication here is that the decision is to share or not to share is a public concern. Listen, we have a freedom in this country to decide to give up something that we want to give up, our property, our money, or not. You can't legislate generosity and come through and say the poor, the poorest among us, the weakest among us, the elderly, the needy, that they won't be taken care of unless the government steps in and takes care of it.
In the broadest sense, where there is no identity or family or clan or group, no hope of reward or mutual defense, no insurance against one's own future hardship. Face it, we do not take care of one another.
Why should we have to? This whole socialist agenda that says that we have to take care of one another, let me tell you something. Americans are the most generous people on the planet Earth. In 2009, the year of the Great Recession, right after the 2008 crash, $303.4 billion with a B, $billion was given to charities in the United States alone. We weren't forced to by the government. There was no Keith Olbermann bill that was enacted and said that we had to give up money. This was a time when everyone was scared. They didn't know where their finances were headed. People were losing their jobs left and right. There was a financial crisis everywhere you looked, and people were still giving over $300 billion. That's in the bad times. You can't, people like Olbermann and people of a liberal philosophy like him can't come out and say there would be no goodness, no charity, no generosity in this country if it weren't for the government mandating it and making it law. There would be no taking care of the elderly. The sick would stay sick and die. There is goodness in America, and it's not generated from the government. It's generated from the hearts of the American people. Give me a call at 702-257-5396. 257-5396. And next, Oberman misstatement.
And that is why the social safety net that this country has stitched together piece by piece over 75 years, despite the unceasing protests of the greedy and the ensconced and the divisive and the xenophobic. That is why the social safety net is this country's greatest accomplishment and the greatest evidence that every once in a while, American exceptionalism is based not in flag waving, but in reality.
The reality is it's a flawed system. It was originally built or designed in the 30s by FDR's people and approved, of course, by FDR at a time when there were 30 payers for every person that received any kind of benefits. 30-1 was the ratio. 30 people paid in for every one person taken out. Now it's 3-1. 3-1. Even FDR wouldn't have designed a system that said that the United States government had to pick up the tab for every person for one out of every 3 people. A 3-1 ratio, that is. He wouldn't have done it. So now we're looking at a flawed system and a promise already made. I don't think there's anybody on Capitol Hill that is saying that we need to do away with Social Security, Medicare, and Medicaid. I do think that they're saying what I'm saying, which is we need to save it because it is a promise made to the American people. Whether you like it or you don't like it, it is a promise that was made long ago by the American people, and we have to live up to it. So, we need to find a system that will maintain that promise. It may not be there for me. It probably will not be there for my kids. But for the people who are using it now and in the near future who have had this promise made to them, we need to keep that promise. And now let's go to a caller. Reed, you're on with John Brislin on John Brislin Live.
Yes, John. You talked about the debt ceiling previously. One thing that everyone seems to forget is that people like Ronald Reagan raised the debt ceiling like 12 times during his presidency, and George Bush Sr. 7 times, and W. Bush like 5 times,
right,
plus the last time in 2008, which was a huge amount of money.
Right. 71 times all totaled.
Okay. People are focusing on Obama, and he hasn't done anything like 12 times than Ronald Reagan. I think people are biased against him because he's because what he's trying to do is raise taxes on the people, the rich people, who haven't been paying taxes for the last 10 years. Because George Bush put in a tax cut 10 years ago that was set to expire in 2012, and now, all of a sudden, all the millionaires are starting to figure out that they're going to have to pay taxes on the money that they made in the last 10 years. Well, and that's what the problem is right now.
Well, Reed, funny thing about that is all the people who aren't millionaires are starting to realize that all this glory package that they thought they were getting from President Obama, now they're going to have to pay for it. So the taxes that you're saying that the rich aren't going to have to pay for, they're up in arms, and the middle class, I suppose, everybody seems to be calling it, the middle class and the poorer people, the disadvantaged, nobody wants to pay the bill. Everybody wants this utopia, and nobody wants to pay the bill. And what I'm saying is at some point, in the last decade, the decade before that, you can go back to Bush, Clinton, Bush again, Reagan, as far back as you want to. Nobody is going to want to pay the bill. At some point, we just have to say now it is becoming a national security risk. It is becoming a national safety, financial security risk. We have got to put a stop to it at some point. And even starting now, this is an amendment to the Constitution. Once they put this through, this has got to go back out to the states for ratification. This is a years-long process. What
we do is we pay for schooling for illegal aliens, okay? And they are not citizens of this country, but we pay a huge amount of money in education for schooling for children of illegal aliens. Now, why do we do that? Because we don't want to go to war with Mexico, and we don't want to start a war with the Mexicans who are already here in America. And that's what would happen. Unfortunately, that's what would happen. People will be rioting in the streets if you cut off their food stamps and if you cut off their education, because I don't agree with it either. I don't agree with giving food stamps to illegal aliens. I don't think that's a very good reason. But people are going to be extremely stressed out if you cut. That's why the politicians haven't done anything in the last 20 years, because they know it would turn into a giant L.A. Watts type riot.
I think their bigger concern, I'm sorry to say, is that they haven't done anything about it because they know that it would cost them re-election. And every president is absolutely in that situation.
Well, it's a combination of probably those reasons.
Yeah.
Politicians don't want to make tough decisions, but if you had a politician who was in office for only 4 years, let's say, okay, we're not going to reelect any politicians, then they will just try to make as much money in 4 years as they can, and because they know they'll be done and out the door in 4 years anyway. So you can't stop a politician from being a politician. That's always going to be there. If you put term limits on them, then they're going to try to make as much illegal activity within their 4 years. So,
in your opinion, what they're doing is illegal?
I think what George Bush did in 8 years was to totally destroy the financial system of this country, yes. He totally destroyed the financial system of this country. He started an avalanche, and then his Republican Party said, you know what? We don't even want to be around when this avalanche starts. We don't want to win the election in 2008. The Republicans didn't want to win in 2008. They got in, they ruined the system, they took all the money, and they got out, and it all fell on the shoulders of guess who? The black man. The president, Reed. The perfect person to blame is the black man. They had this planned.
Hold on, slow down a minute, Reed. I don't think I understand what you mean by the black man. I hope I don't understand. Help clarify it for me. When you say it fell on the shoulders of the black man, you mean you're talking about the president, or are you saying that it fell on his shoulders because he's black?
The Republicans did not want to win the election in 2008 because they knew they created a financial avalanche, and the fact that Obama was the one who was going to win made it all the more better for them, because now all the lower income white people, now they can all blame, guess what? They can blame it on the black man. It's the perfect setup for these right wingers. That's exactly what they wanted to do, and it's working. People are more divided now. They're more pissed off now. They're more ready to do anything now.
Well, they're more divided now. I tell you, you lose me on the whole black man thing. I think that they're divided right now because of the class warfare. People, what you said originally on the call, that the wealthy don't want to give up their tax deductions and their tax loopholes, and the people who are receiving most of the benefits, the middle class and the non-rich, they don't want to pay the tab either. But as far as a black man and the racism that exists or doesn't exist it's measured wonderfully by the fact that we elected a black president, and that there is another man, Herman Cain, who is a Republican, obviously, and is a contender at least for the presidency of the United States. So saying that it's a black man and that we just want to throw the blame onto someone who some people don't like in the first place, I think that it says something about America and our race relations that we would elect a black president in the first place, that we've passed the point of just blaming somebody. Don't you think? Isn't it more just rich versus poor, the haves, the have-nots, the people who want to pay the bill versus the people who want the service?
Traditionally, the conservatives have been the white, rich white man, and the party of conservatives has been funded and run and staffed by white men who have money. Now things are changing slowly, but their base is the white man who has money, and they also use it for the poor man.
Well, Reed, I sure appreciate the call. I see your point. You lose me on the black and white thing. If that were true, then there would be more blacks in the Democratic Party, and the Republican Party would be the party of white. But appreciate it. Check John Brislin live on Facebook and give me a call, 257-5396. And you are on with the John Brislin Live Show. We'll be right back.
What's the most important thing about air conditioning? That's easy. That it works and keeps working. That it stays quiet and does its job, so you don't have to think about it. So answer me this. If you're having problems with your air conditioning or want to make sure you won't, who are you going to trust? The guys telling you they'll give you an AC tune-up for some lowball price? Or the yes man who's part of a company who literally invented the modern air conditioner? Listen, those cheap tune-up guys just want one thing, to get to your house so they can find more problems and sell you more stuff. Yes, air conditioning? We just want one thing too, to quickly, professionally, affordably get your air conditioning back to form. So whether you need a new air conditioner or need service for yours, Yes will get it working and keep it working. Remember, the Yes Man can. 888-4937 or visit theyesmancan.com. License 71246.
Take a swing and hear freedom ring. TPC Summerlin presents Birdies for the Brave, Monday, August 15th. Proceeds benefit local veterans and their families. Your registration includes 18 holes at TPC Summerlin and a bonus round of golf at TPC Las Vegas. Call 256-0111 to register. Birdies for the Brave is supported by the PGA Tour as a way of giving back to the men and women who've given up so much for this country. Support local veterans and their families with Birdies for the Brave. Call 256-0111 or go to tpcsummerlin.com.
Just ask Mary.
Filing bankruptcy is not your only option. This is Mary Marriott, and I have a simple solution to help manage your money without destroying your credit. Go to justaskmary.com to find out how. That's justaskmary.com. Keep in mind, bankruptcy is not your only choice. Listen, financial freedom is just a click away.
Just ask Mary about making your money make sense. Just ask Mary.com.
You feel that?
We are back with John Brislin live. The phone number is 702-257-5396, 257-5396. And you can also get me on Facebook at John Brislin Live, John Brislin Show on Facebook. And we have a couple callers calling in now. Last person brought up the whole subject of the race relations in America, and I'll tell you, you kind of lose me when you're on that, saying that it's all because the black man was elected president. But let's go to the caller. Line 1, you're on with John Brislin Live.
John?
Yeah.
I'm still reeling from that last guy. I was trying to lay down here and go to bed. I was listening to your show. I don't know where he came from, but when I first heard his voice, it sounded like Harry Reid's brother. I think that's who he is.
Rory Reid, or not Rory.
No,
Reid.
his brother. He must have a brother somewhere that we don't know about, because that guy was spitting the same puke, I guess I could say, as his brother, Harry, who's ruining our country down there in Washington right now, and telling us we have to go down his road or the high road. But when he brought up the black thing, I almost fell out of... I'm so glad you said what you said, because he's like throwing us all under the bus. I just couldn't believe what he said.
Yeah, it reminds me a little bit about when Barack Obama was running for president, and anytime you opposed anything that you said, suddenly you're a racist. It's not about race relations. It's not about the black man or white man. It's about the fact that what's being said is absolutely opposite of what the majority of Americans want to hear.
No, exactly. And there's Harry, and there's all those other senators that are back and forth, and Barack is just sitting up in the White House. He hasn't been jumping into the conversation. He's saying, you got to do it. You got to do it. Well, you were right. They got to draw a line, or we're going to go underground. What is it? We're in the red or whatever it is already. We have to stop spending the money we don't have.
That's
the plan that has to come up.
Hold on a second. I didn't catch your name. What's your name?
Oh, Pete.
Well, Pete, I'll tell you, where is the line? When do you say, okay, now's the time to say, yes, we're going to tick some people off. Yes, we're going to cut some critical programs. And it's always going to be that way. And sometimes the critical program is going to be the American government. The United States Constitution is going to be the critical program that we're trying to save.
Well, I was very interested in what you said about how when Roosevelt it was 30-1, and now it's 3-1. That's a very telling point.
Yeah, absolutely it is. Again, I firmly believe that FDR would not have approved it if that was the ratio, because he understood what the government could do. He wanted to push it to the limit, but not over the edge.
Well, I'm going to let you go get your other callers, but Olbermann, thank you for playing that stuff and letting people hear exactly who he is, because he's off his rocker, and I mean, he should be back on ESPN. I liked the one he was a sportscaster. But that was it. But thank you for the show, and I appreciate it.
I sure appreciate the call. I got one question, if you're still there.
Yeah.
All right. Do you think it would hurt the economy to do the balanced budget amendment?
Oh, no. No, we need that. No, we need that. And the term limit thing, that's another thing about what that other gentleman was talking about. But they'd still be crooks within 4 years? No. They would know that they were only going in there for 4 years to serve their country.
Right.
You know, that's what I don't understand where his train of thought was. And like Kennedy, Ted was there for 40 years? Yeah, or whatever it was. If he knew he was going to be there for 4 years, he wouldn't even have went.
Right.
So I believe in
true.
term limits, and I do definitely believe in a balanced budget. Yes.
Well, I'll tell you, I agree with you on the term limits, and I am a recent convert. I'm a flip-flopper, I suppose you say, but unless you're in politics, you're not a flip-flopper. You're just someone you're growing and your opinion is changing. So
exactly.
But I'll tell you, I flip-flopped. I used to oppose the term limits, but I think that they're important now because of the fact anyone who has run for office, I have run for office, if you go against the establishment and a few people within the establishment that are vested in the process of the government and the decisions that come out that have the bankroll, they can keep spending the money in one way or another until you have no chance. The only way you're going to get these career politicians out is to eliminate the possibility of them accumulating these people with the bankrolls that will just keep them in there until Kennedy dies.
And one more thing. I don't know about how your other callers feel, but we need to open Yucca Mountain. We need that money, that it would be income for our state, it'll save Nevada. I've done a lot of, watching people and studied it, and we spent billions of dollars building it. We've tested all the train cars and the way things would be sent here. Look, we blew up millions of not millions, but bombs out there of nuclear bombs. That stuff's never going to go away. But we need to use that mountain. We need that income. We need those jobs. Now, that's just another thing I just happened to throw in there.
Yeah. Well, we need jobs in one form or another. And with that sitting there, with that resource right there, the natural assumption is to put it to use. I sure appreciate the call.
Thank you.
You have a fantastic night. Make sure you go to Facebook, John Brislin Show. There'll be an after show, a couple comments, and I'd love to hear what you say tomorrow.
Thank you.
Thank you. Folks, you're on with the John Brislin Show. And you can also find me on John Brislin Show on Facebook, or also call 702-257-5396. It's 257-KDON, KDWN. We have another caller on. I didn't get your name. Caller, you're on with John Brislin. What's your name?
How you doing? Don.
Hey, Don. Good to hear from you, my friend. What's on your mind?
Hey. Well, a couple things. When we're all talking about this debt ceiling, It's really a line being drawn between socialism and capitalism. And what most people don't realize, when I have conversations with friends of mine that support Obama, I just call them an out-and-out socialist, and they get offended, and it's the education
because you're calling
so
Obama
bad.
a socialist.
Well, he's a full-on socialist. How do you get any more socialist? But the education is so bad in this country, people don't even know that what they're espousing is socialism. If you say
Right.
what you're talking about is Marxism, they get offended because they don't know. First of all, they don't understand what Marxism is, and so what they think they're talking about is some new idea, and some new level of compassion when it is straight socialism.
Right.
So how
Right.
do
They
you
think it's an American idea. They think that they're being pro-American by bringing up things like take care of your fellow Americans, whether you like it or not, no matter what they're doing. Make sure you give them cradle-to-grave coverage. Make sure this is socialism. I mean, there's an article in the paper recently that why are Americans so angry? It's by Bernie Sanders. Bernie Sanders, a confessed socialist. And we're looking at it, the people that we're looking at it, that were commenting on it in the comments underneath the article, are saying that this is a pro-American approach. This is what we need to do to save America. That's what we need to do to save France. That's what you want to do, go to France.
That's right. Because, listen, in 5 minutes I can sell socialism to the common bumpkin. In order for somebody to learn capitalism, how much more compassionate and kind that system really is, it takes a semester in college. You have to go through collectively a bunch of theories and get understanding capitalism. I can sell you socialism in 2 seconds on a 30-second commercial. That's the level of thought that most Americans operated at. Getting back to the budget, and that's the unfortunate. I think the uneducated are procreating much faster than the educated. Getting back to it is. It's just simple to say. And getting to the debt crisis is, the idea that we can raise taxes and that will solve the problem is as insane an idea as I've ever heard.
There's still checks in the checkbook, right?
What's that?
There's still checks in the checkbook. There are more credit cards you can apply for. I'm not out of money.
Yeah, that's right. We grew this country to be a great nation on far less taxes than we have now. And the idea that if we just give the government a little bit more money, then they'll get it under control and quit spending is ludicrous. I mean,
you give a mouse a cookie, guess what? He's going to want a glass of milk. There is no end to it.
That's right. They can't stop themselves. They cannot do it. So I applaud the Tea Party. They are drawing the line in the sand, and now's the time it has to be drawn because the price will be paid. You either pay it now or you pay it somewhere down the road. But all these hardships and these food stamps, they're going away. You can't create something out of nothing. It's just a bad situation that our politicians and the Federal Reserve has made into what it is.
Well, Don, I'll tell you something. What you were talking before about the socialism, there are too many times where the American good-heartedness, people who are good-hearted and want to help their neighbor, Americans have a way. There is a mechanism in our society to help their neighbors, and it's called the nonprofit organization. It's so
That's
effective that the American government actually gives, we all know this, but let's mention it again, the tax deductions for charitable contributions. What is the government trying to do? It's trying to encourage people, just random Americans, to donate money to these nonprofits because it's such a strong mechanism to help the needy. It is not the government's place to help the needy unless you have certain mentalities that says you have to. In fact, I want to play a quick clip. Stay on with me, Don, okay? I want you to hear this 15-second clip of what Oberman says we're judged by.
But over time, I have come to agree with the baseball player Jackie Robinson. A life is not important except in the impact it has on other lives. What other measure is there of each one of us? You will die and I will die and everybody you will see tomorrow will die and so are the children and their descendants and we will be at best memories. And by what are all those who preceded us judged? Name anybody in history. Name anybody we all know or somebody only you know. By what are they judged? The answer, stripped of the bells and whistles, is not wealth, nor fame, nor beauty, nor power, but what impact did they have on the lives of others?
You could have an impact on the lives of others that doesn't have to be through the government. The government is not the only source of kindness in America. It's the American people. that are the
right.
source of kindness. You cannot legislate generosity and have it work effectively in this country. Do you agree?
That's right. And here's the flaw. One of the other flaw in this whole idea of redistributing wealth is that when the government takes your money and gives it to somebody who they think is in need, they inherently have to believe that that person is unequal to the other people. So socialism is based on the belief that people are not
right.
created equal. In fact, they're just the opposite. They're unequal. And so we have to help the dummies out, where capitalism is actually created based on where we think everybody's equal. So socialism doesn't exist, this whole mindset, unless you think people are not equal and thus aren't deserving of the same thing, unless you steal from somebody to give to the unequal, thus hurting the people that will most drive this society.
Don, you nailed it. You nailed it. That is exactly the thing that we need to remember, that if you have the American ideal that people are capable, people can take care of themselves. It's that lack of trust in the American people that the liberal philosophy seems to say we have got to be there to carry them because they can't carry themselves. We are Americans. We can carry ourselves. There's a net that's needed sometimes, and the government needs to be there in a small way, but not carry us down the road. You nailed it, Don.
Right.
I sure appreciate the call.
Okay.
All right. Thanks, Don. All right, folks, you are on with John Brislin live. The phone number is 702-257-5396, 257-KDWN. We got another caller, line 3. Go ahead. You're on with John Brislin. What's your name?
Hello, this is Ryan.
Hey, Ryan. How's it going?
It's going well.
What's on your mind?
Ironically enough, I couldn't disagree more with you and your last caller, although I respectfully do so because I enjoy your show.
I love it. Thank you very much. Let's hear it. Let's do a couple rounds of good, healthy debate.
Okay, I'm actually on the flip side of this debate. I actually don't understand how we can be so vehemently opposed to how taxing the rich can be such a sin in a time like this, when the wealth gap is greater than it's been since the 50s or the 20s, or whatever statistic you want to look at. Why are we so worried about them right now?
Because there are two different ways to go. One is to let the wealthy do what wealthy people do, which is invest their money, or let me get to this. Just let me finish the thought. No, that's it. And the other is to have the government do it for us. The government doing it for us is the essential, the equivalent to handing out crack, because they're going to need to come back to us next year. We're not free next year to help somebody else who's in need, because they can't sustain themselves next year. They're going to have to come back to us. It builds the addiction. And the nice thing, if you're a politician, is it builds a strong base of votes. Now, if you put the strength out into the private sector and businesses, I'm not in favor of people who fly jets, okay? I don't have a jet, and I get the whole idea of people who are wealthy can afford it. But what we want them to do, if we're a good, greedy government, is we want those people to do what they do with money. They don't do what we see on MTV with the cribs buying cars and houses and fur hats and whatever we see on the crazy show. What they do is they invest the money in their business or someone else's business to grow that. They're greedy. They want their business to grow. And when that business grows, people have to work for them. When those people work for them, they buy things and they pay taxes to the government, and so does the employer. And the economy is growing. The taxes are flowing to the government. A good, greedy government is then happy. The thing is, it doesn't get you a good base of votes. So politicians always put that as a second to getting reelected.
Okay, and in essence, what I believe that what you just said is beautiful. I really do. The problem is that in the era of automation, I think that it's not trickling down to the average person who's not a doctor or a lawyer. Or I just think the opportunities are not being created by the job creators who people are reliant upon and who have been for years. And I think that's something that's been missing. I don't hear it really on either side of the aisle. Which is why I will say that one thing you said last week I agree with. It was maybe 2 weeks ago, where we can kind of have some common ground, even though we probably fundamentally disagree, is that you said, why not incentivize companies to hire people, which I completely agree with. So I think that I can completely go along with you on that on what you said there, and I think there's definitely some common ground there.
Well, Ryan, on the last show, one of the things that I mentioned was the fact that the jobs may not be coming back as we know them. This may be the going from one phase to the other, from the buggy whips to the cars, or from the bank teller to the ATM, where the jobs aren't going to be coming back. And we were able to get away with it for a while, for decades even, because there was a culture built up. We were used to going to the bank teller. We didn't like these newfangled contraptions. But now, when there's a $100 fee to see a bank teller, we'll figure out how to use the ATM. So, I mean, that's a strange parallel to draw. But now with the Great Recession, companies had to lay off and go streamlined, and those jobs have gone streamlined overseas. The Riviera Hotel here in my town of Vegas, the Riviera Hotel just a couple of days ago outsourced to Malaysia their whole PBX department, their phone system. It can be done from Malaysia. So businesses here who are, if you don't know the history of Las Vegas and the Riviera Hotel, they've had some very, very, very tough times coming close to closing. They had to streamline. They were forced to. Do you think the jobs are coming back?
Right. I actually worked for a company that's somewhat affected by the Riviera, so I know. I just want to say that I like your show, and I agree with your sentiment on a lot of things. But I think this automation issue is something that kind of needs to be really focused on. And I like I said, I agree with your idea to maybe incentivize companies to hire people as opposed to machines. You know, I just think we got to, in the long term, I think we're better off. I think we're better off as a people. We're going to find more efficient things to do with an efficient thing. I'm not anti-technology. I just think we've got to figure out a solution in the interim to have people work, and I just think we've got to be creative about it.
You're absolutely right, Ryan. Fantastic call. I sure appreciate it. Give me a call next week. I'd love to hear from you, or go to Facebook on John Brislin Show, all right? All right, Ryan, you take care. We are on with the John Brislin Show. It's 702-257-5396. So we're talking about the debt ceiling. And Ryan, the last caller, one of the things he mentioned is that we are changing and we're streamlining our companies, and it's going to technology. It's a lot of the jobs are being taken away, and a computer is taken over for it. Well, you know what? That also, one thing we need to think about is it puts us on a global market. So those jobs that go away, we're now competing with Malaysia and the Philippines and China because those jobs are going overseas. All right, next caller, line 3. You are on the air with John Brislin. What's on your mind? You're on the air.
Oh, hi. Okay.
What's your name?
Who are we? Can you hear me?
I can hear you. What's your name, buddy?
Oh, I'm Jim.
Hey, Jim. All right, what's on your mind?
Okay. Yeah, who are we beholden to? Is it isn't it the world bankers are just fleecing us mostly, and the political scene is just like a front?
I would say that they are, in that they are not cooperating with what would be best for our economy, because what's happening with the banks is you're going to have all the banks and a lot of the major Fortune 500 corporations that are keeping their assets, their liquid, their cash on the sidelines. They're keeping it in cash rather than investing it because they don't know what the tax structure is going to be over the next couple of years. They don't know what the economy is going to be in the next couple of years. With the GDP dropping the way that it's been reported lately, there's a possibility, unlikely, but the possibility of a double-dip recession, which is causing all the banks to hold their money back, not lend it, don't spend it on investing in new planes or whatever your business is. So, yeah, they're working against us.
Isn't there like about 120 people that are on top that are just skinning us and fleecing us for all our money, and now they're going to take the rest as we work like debt slaves?
You know, that's a common opinion. A lot of people usually point towards Soros as one of that group. You know,
I don't know.
Go ahead.
I don't know if I'm wrong, but I know when. You know, I'm really a Ron Pauler all the way, and he's constitutional all the way, and I think we got ourselves into trouble when we veered off. And FDR, he should have never enacted that. That's the reason why we're in the trouble we're in now, when he enacted that program of that safety net, because it got out of hand.
Right. He was. Go ahead.
Well, anyway, I didn't like FDR because, but back in when they started that Federal Reserve, which was Wilson did it, and he said, I think I just unknowingly ruined my country.
At least he noticed.
Huh?
At least he noticed. A lot of them do it.
Yeah,
they
yeah,
think they're doing
because
the best. FDR, I think, died believing he did what was best.
Oh, I'm sure he, whatever. But as far as I know, I think we're just being skinned alive. I think that they lost interest in the U.S. They're putting all their money into China, India, that type of thing. And it's just a big money game now. And, yeah, we're behind the 8 ball. And there's a few, like 60% of the population receives a check from the government. Now, I don't, and I don't care if they close personally, and I would love to be free again. My brother died in Nam. And that was probably a scam, too, because Johnson's wife had stock in Bell Helicopter and stuff. So I think we're just getting ripped off. And although we're a great country, but we, when your house is dirty, they say love it or leave it. But if my house is dirty, I want to clean it up.
Absolutely. I'm with you. It's called loyalty. It's called, stand by what you believe, stand by your country.
Yes. Freedom, give me liberty or death. I mean, I know where they're coming from because tyranny is human nature. You get any group, and there's going to be people on top, and our forefathers knew that.
Right. So I have a friend who I haven't talked to in a long time except on Facebook. He sends me these little emails once in a while, and he's a smart man, but he's said things to me that have actually absolutely thrown me. And one of them is that the Constitution is outdated, that these are new times, and the Constitution should just be thrown out because they didn't.
That's what they're trying to do. Is
electricity and phones. Yeah, and
that's wrong.
Absolutely, it's wrong. A constitutional convention would be the end of our country. The Constitutional Convention. Who do you think's out there right now that could write a new constitution?
No one. It's the only thing that will protect us at this point. As
it stands, as it is right now. And
as
the amendment process, that's fine. But as the Constitution is, it's what protects us. And I've heard people talk about a constitutional convention to just start over from scratch because we know best and we know what applies in a modern age. It's crap. It would be the end of our country.
It would. You know what I see now is I get this picture in my mind of a bunch of guppies laying around, like 60 of them, and then there's the government with the money, and they're sprinkling it out like feed, and they're down there going, feed me, and then there's about 40% of the people throwing the money to the government.
You know what you'd love? I really think you may already have taken a look at this, but the classic Wizard of Oz, that was actually written as a political satire of the political situation in the 1890s. The Scarecrow was the farmer with no brains, big heart but no brains. The Tin Man represented industry. Industry had no heart, but he was a tin man. He was industry. The Lion was Congress. He was the cowardly lion. Let's see, everything in it. The Wicked Witch of the West. The little people were the people. The little people, the what were they called? Not the hobbits. I lost you there, but it was a good call. And I think you should take a look at the Wizard of Oz and maybe do something on Google to find out what the political satire aspect of it is. It's really interesting, and it shows you how political situations don't change that much over time. They're quirky then, they're quirky now, and they always will be. But this has been a fantastic show. Everyone, thanks very much for sharing your hour with me. My name is John Brislin on The John Brislin Show. You can find me on Facebook on John Brislin Show on Facebook. And also email at john.brislin@yahoo.com. We are here every week, a Saturday night at midnight. And I always want to remind you that America is advanced citizenship. You have got to want it bad because it is going to put up a fight, and we will be here every week fighting for it. Thanks for joining me. The John Brislin Show. Good night, America, wherever you are.
The dawn of today's talk radio. News Talk 720 KDWN. It's Las Vegas's only nationally syndicated radio show. Jerry Doyle.
Term limits are called elections. Every 2 years, every 4 years, every 6 years for the United States Senate. So we have term limits. We just don't seem to want to use them to our best advantage to term out these yahoos on Capitol Hill.
Talk and attitude. Jerry Doyle, noon to 3 on News Talk 720 KDWN, where locals come to talk. The dawn of today's talk radio. News Talk 720 KDWN. Michael Savage. Weekdays 3 to 6.
Why did God create skunks? I'll never understand. And where I live in the San Francisco Bay Area, the people are so foolish, such idiots, that the skunk is considered a sacred animal. If I could, I'd have a trap, grab every skunk in Marin County and release them in San Francisco so they could poison the bicyclists.
Talk that grabs you by the ears. News Talk 720 KDWN, where locals come to talk. The Heidi Harris Show. Weekdays 5 a.m. to 9 a.m.
The President of the United States stood up and said, "I'm so extraordinarily proud." Jeez, I'd hate to see how you felt if things really got good. You're extraordinarily proud of what? He thinks it's funny. He's joking about ATMs and self-serve cashiers. Ha ha ha. I guess shovel ready wasn't as shovel ready as we thought.
Is this a joke?
I got your shovel ready, bud.
Las Vegas' only live, local, morning talk show. The Heidi Harris Show. Weekdays 5 a.m. to 9 a.m.